My name is Vasundhara Singh and I'm a psychologist. I've just finished my master's last year from the University of Sussex in UK, and I've been working with IIT Delhi for almost a year now. And at the same time, I've been involved with the Get Real Again program and about internet addiction. So today we are here to talk about internet, and it's not about one of those seminars which tell you how awesome it is and how it is the thing for your kid, but it is more about how it is abusive and how it can be dangerous as well. So starting with it, what is internet? Like, for everybody we know, internet is a super library. You need anything, you go onto the internet. And it's just that we are not aware that instead of just getting information, we also get a lot of unwanted exposure or unwanted information which is not suitable for people of all age groups. So in a nutshell, internet is a super library. Let's talk about what internet is in a technical term. So internet is basically a network of computers. There are people who upload information on there and they're called servers, and there are people who download information there or use it, they're called consumers. Just to give you the sheer size of the internet, Google in 2012 finalized around 1 trillion pages. That means Google has 1 trillion index pages. So 1 trillion are the number of pages you can access through Google. But that is just 10% of the entire internet, which means it's just the tip of the iceberg. Like there is much more to internet than Google and the pages through Google. So a recent survey has showed that 65 to 70% of students are online every day, and out of which most of the students spend around 6 times more amount of time on internet rather than doing their homework. As a result, the natural interactions for every kid has decreased and the virtual interactions have increased. Everything which was there in the outer net or the outer world has an equivalent on the internet. You want to make friends and socialize, you have Facebook. You want to spread the word about something, you just have to tweet it. You have to research something for your papers, go on to Google Scholar, they give you all the best journals. If you want to watch a movie, you go to YouTube, and there is absolutely no need for you to leave out of your house, leave your computer, or leave your internet. As a result, natural interactions, sports per se, have been decreasing, resulting in a lot of problems like obesity, anxiety, with a too much increase in virtual interactions, which cause a lot of physical symptoms such as back pain and eyesight weakness, fairly young in kids. Another survey showed that in 2006, the amount of time spent on the internet was around 5 hours, which has almost doubled in 2010, which is over 9 hours. Only thing that justifies this doubling of internet usage is the addiction of internet. So now we come to the internet addiction disorder. It is very much real, and the thing is, people are not aware of it. There are a lot of symptoms of internet addiction disorder, few being lack of track of time, lack of responsibilities. You're at work, you fall behind deadlines. At school, you fall behind deadlines, not because you don't want to work, but invariably you end up doing other things than working on the internet. Other symptoms are isolation and distancing from friends. You would much rather sit at home and, work on your laptop, be on internet, than go out and meet friends. Another thing which is very prominent among kids suffering from internet addiction disorder is noticeable guilt and defensiveness. The whole idea when a parent goes to their son or daughter and says, why do you spend so much time on the internet? The irritability, the defensiveness is a sign that they are doing something wrong and they just don't know how to justify it. Other physical symptoms of internet addiction disorder would be carpal tunnel syndrome. It is a very serious disease. It is a nerve disorder which leads to numbing of the nerves in your hand. So invariably, your arm is in a perpetual crooked position. So it's like you're typing on the keyboard, your arm is invariably like that perpetually. Other things are headaches, backache, neck aches. People who prolongedly use just computers suffer from that as well, and it is heightened for people with internet addiction. Another thing is unexpected gait gain or gait loss. If you're continuously on your laptop, you don't exercise, invariably your weight increases, or you don't have time to eat and your weight decreases. Dry eyes, strained images, sort of haziness when you're just staring at a screen for a long amount of time. Suddenly everything appears hazy. Sleep disturbances. A lot of people end up being on the internet doing something or the other till 2 or 3 at night and not getting enough sleep. A recent study in China has shown the effects of IID on brain structure. It's a very seminal paper which focused on how it affected the frontal lobe area of your brain. So what the study did was that it fMRI scanned 35 men and women between the ages of 14 and 21, and the results showed that there were abnormally decreased size of the frontal lobe. Frontal lobe is an area which basically governs your executive thinking skills and attention, cognitive control, things like language learning, reasoning, problem solving, decision making, and emotional processing. Basically, everything you are is your frontal lobe. Your personality is your frontal lobe. Another thing which came out of the results of that study was there was some sort of a disoriented snap. So the nerve endings of two cells would not communicate in the way they're supposed to communicate. And that abnormality was similar to what they found out when people are suffering from alcoholism or substance abuse addiction. So basically, substance abuse addiction as well as people who are internet addicted have similar brain abnormalities. So another important researcher which works on the effect of internet addiction and other addictions on brain is Dr. Henrietta Bowden-Jones at the Imperial College London, and she also says that the orbitofrontal cortex, the frontal lobe, is affected in similar ways as it is seen by people with substance abuse addictions and alcoholism. There are a lot of technology driven illnesses which have started lately, the first and the most important being Facebook depression. Every person is on Facebook these days and they are addicted to the idea of the virtual perfect life. If a person has 10 friends on Facebook and 8 of them are going on vacations and partying, they feel that they are not doing the same thing, so they don't have the perfect life. That leads to something which is very normally called as the Facebook depression. The second one being cyberchondria. This is basically an illness where you end up diagnosing yourself via the internet. So if I have stomach cramps, I will go to the internet and search, I have stomach cramps and I'm having such and such kind of pain. So if the computer or the internet tells me that I probably have stomach cancer, I would start assuming that I am suffering from stomach cancer. That condition is called cyberchondria. The third one being cyber sickness. Cyber sickness is something which has come up fairly lately. It is associated with something called as the parallax effect, which is actually shown in the iOS 7 of released by Apple. So the continuous motion or movement of icons from left to right and breaking up causes people has actually led people complain of nausea and headaches, which invariably leads to a lot of anxiety and decreased eye function. The fourth one is a very interesting illness which was discovered by a organization in the UK called YouGovernment, and what they did was they got 2,000 people and took their phones and away from them and locked them up in a room and saw actually how they reacted. So they came up with a word called nomophobia, which means no mobile phobia. What the people ended up doing were they were restless and anxious, throwing things at each other, getting involved in a lot of fighting and verbal abuse. Basically, that just means that without their phone, they act like 2-year-olds. Phantom ringing syndrome is the last one, which I think every one of us in some point of our life goes through. Phantom ringing syndrome basically means even if your phone is not in your pocket, you have the sensation of vibration. And it is very, I think, basic for us to say it right now, but for people who have advanced stages of phantom ringing syndrome, it's really hampering their day-to-day life because they have this perpetual feeling of vibration somewhere on their body and they have no way to sort of, say that, okay, my phone was ringing or associated with. So the question comes is, how safe is the cyber world for our kids? We know all the good the internet gives us, but it's time now to actually analyze the online risks and threats. There are a number of news paper cuttings here which show you about how teenage suicides, cyberbullying, Facebook addiction have all affected teenagers and kids in particular. So online risks and threats, the major ones being online pornography, sex predators and pedophiles, social network addiction, cyberbullying, sexting, and social engineering. So we are all aware of what online pornography, sex predators, pedophiles, social network addiction, cyberbullying is. Sexting basically is exchange of any sort of sexually explicit material over either messaging or MMS. Social engineering is something which is called as phishing with a PH. So what that means is you get emails from either your banks or something like British Airways telling you have won $40,000 million and you should give in your bank details to collect them. Or you get such emails from your bank saying that they need your information to upgrade your account, even though they're all fraudulent. So, starting with online pornography, some of the very interesting facts about online pornography, which a recent survey showed, was that 90% of the children between ages of 8 to 16 have viewed porn. And porn comprises of approximately 12% of the internet, which is much more than what is available through Google. The largest consumers of pornography are 12 to 17-year boys. It is a $97 billion business worldwide. The average age at which a child starts watching pornography is 11, and 4 out of 16-year-olds regularly access pornography online. So 25% of the search engines requests are for porn, and 20% increase in sexual attacks by children have been witnessed over the last 3 years. Nearly 80% of the unwanted exposure to pornography is taking place at home because kids, adults, they don't have access to internet in public places or the privacy to actually indulge in something like watching pornography. One of our very traditional views was that only boys indulge in watching pornography, but the recent survey showed that 1 in 3 porn viewers are actually women, and more so, 1 in 6 women struggles with porn addiction. The question comes is, how do kids get exposed to such explicit sexual material online unless and until they're actually looking for it? The first and most common one is called misspelled web addresses, or cyber squatting, or URL squatting. That is either misspelling a word like, say, Delhi government, and that invariably leads you to a porn site, or cyber squatting, which means you pick up something iconic, say White House. If I ask you what White House is, you would say US president, or the US president house or office. Maybe just searching the word White House would lead you to whitehouse.com, which might not be the site of the US government, but might actually be a porn site. The second one is a link coming up as a result of an innocent word search. Basically, you search for something as innocent as a picture of a young girl because you want to put it up on a presentation. That might actually lead you up to a porn site. The third one being clicking on a link in another site. So that basically means you go to YouTube, you sort of watch one video, and from there you move on from one video to another, invariably leading you to something which is sexually explicit. The fourth and the last and the most common one, which I think everybody witnesses, is a pop-up. You watch all those videos and movies that are uploaded online, and all of them have pop-ups coming up, either from AliExpress trying to sell you sex toys, or from some weird pornographic website. So the thing is, why is pornography available on the internet? It's free, it's available 24/7, and children are very smart at using internet than the kids. So what are the symptoms of pornographic addiction? The first one is powerlessness, the failure to control the behavior. You know what you're doing is something you're not supposed to do, or you're not getting any sort of a gratification out of it, but you are powerless. You just have to do that, like whether it's 4 times a day or 5 times a day, invariably hampering your daily routine or your daily life. The second one being unmanageability. Again, continuation of the behavior despite significant negative consequences. You're supposed to be in a meeting, but because of your addiction, you end up first going to the washroom and watching, a porn, and then ending up being late for a meeting. The third one, basically, pornography addicts are very similar to addicts of cocaine. And another study which was done showed that the brain structure of cocaine addicts is similar to the brain structure of pornographic addicts. One of the diseffects of pornographic addiction is that if you're a cocaine addict, you could go to a rehab, go through the entire process to get yourself cleaned. It'll be out of your system. But being addicted to pornography or just watching porn, those images are forever engraved in your mind. For a kid between the ages of 8 to 16, that is their actual growing up period. That's the time they're figuring them out. That's the time they're developing their personality. If during that time they start watching porn, they have very distracted views about personality and about people, about society, and women in particular. So what are the effects of pornographic addiction? First, and the most common one being, they commoditize and objectify women. They view women as the means for sexual gratification, something to derive pleasure out of, and not as an actual living person. The second one being, it glorifies and promotes rape and sexual violence. This is again very common because porn is not just about sex. They even show different kinds of sex. They show I think abnormal fetishes and just weird sexual interactions amongst multiple people as well. The effects of pornographic addiction, the social effects of pornographic addiction, is that they affect the child's development and their identity. As I previously mentioned, the ages of 6 to say 18 is the time when a kid develops not just their personality but also their brain. And during that time, when the kid is trying to figure out where they fit in the world, or how and what they're supposed to do, things like pornographic addiction can actually lead them to become sociopaths.